Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And welcome to this week's weekly recap, where we're actually having to double up on a few things because we did do the Batcats preview last week with Brian Smoller. So please be sure to go back and listen to that if you are interested in the Batcats. But we have a bit of K-State football recruiting news, women's Catsketball, and the triumphant return of the men's Catsketball team. And no, it's not just because they're winning, though that is a significant part of it, but it's actually because they're bothering to care now. But before we get into any of that, we do have to thank Grandma.
Thank you, Grandma.
That's it. We always got to thank Grandma. But now we can get into the football recruiting news. And the newest commit is an Ohio State tackle by the name of George Fitzpatrick, who apparently was very highly touted in Ohio State and he was a guy that they actually wanted to keep there up in Columbus. But he decides to transfer, decides to come to K-State. And, you know, it's a guy that Ohio State wanted to keep, and really that's enough for me. That's enough justification for him to have a spot to me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. And he's somebody that K-State wanted pretty badly out of high school as well. K-State was a team that was in on him pretty early as well. But then his recruitment really blew up, and K-State kind of fell out of the picture. But I guess that's what you get when you hang around and you build a good relationship with somebody in recruitment, is you might get them down the road. And that's what K-State did here.
Yeah. And he was a high school 4-star. A lot of teams were involved, including teams like, you know, your Texases, your Oklahomas, your Penn States, your Notre Dames. Entered the portal, decides to come to K-State. And so, I mean, it's really difficult to talk about offensive linemen because there's only so many superlatives that you can toss out. But I think just from what I remember of George Fitzpatrick years ago, like just watching his tape, was steady, was the number one way that I would just describe him, was just really steady and really consistent, which is a very, very, I imagine he probably slots into right tackle. I imagine Snee probably ends up taking left tackle. And we have to talk about TP coming back. But we dealt with inconsistent right tackle play, which you had Christian Duffy, who, of course, had famously his Duffy moments, which other than that, he was a perfectly good right tackle. And then Carver Willis, who, Carver, just sometimes he would be the best player on the field. And then the other 8 out of 10 snaps would happen, and he would be anywhere from below average to, oh, dear God, help me. And I don't feel like George Fitzpatrick is going to be on either end of that spectrum, because he just seems like a really, really steady right tackle coming in at, 6'6" or 6'5.5", depending on how you view it, and then 274 pounds. So maybe you want him to put on a little more weight, but that also could be his high school numbers. But yeah, I like this pickup a lot.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it too. I mean, this is somebody, I think the connection beyond K-State recruiting him out of high school was also Gabe Powers, who is another transfer from Ohio State to K-State, as roommates with George Fitzpatrick at Ohio State. So Gabe Powers gets here and brings in some good reviews and brings George Fitzpatrick. And for what it's worth, the 273 number, that is his high school numbers. He's listed as 313 pounds on his Ohio State profile.
Okay. So yeah, he does have the ideal size to play tackle, and I would say he probably claims one of the starting spots. I still think that left tackle might be a little bit more of a fight between Snee and Pastore than one would originally think. I do think Snee eventually takes it just because Pastore has been so injury prone. But this is a massive add for K-State. And it's probably their last transfer portal ad, probably of this entire cycle, unless they try to dig into the spring window, but they may not have room to do that. So it's a nice way to cap off the recruiting period.
Yeah, because you take two tackles. One of them, and Brandon Snee, is a guy where if he puts it all together, then he's going to be really, really, really good. And yeah, Fitzpatrick, who is somebody who maybe the ceiling is a little lower, but the floor might be a little bit higher with him as well, and is coming in a little bit more refined than a guy like Brandon Snee is after spending some time at a national championship program. So, yeah, this is a pretty good addition, I think, for K-State.
Yeah. But we also have, before we get into the sort of final rankings for the high school commits, do want to mention that Taylor Poitier apparently got his waiver approved. So he will be coming back to Manhattan next season. So that is probably 2 of the 5 spots that we figured out for sure, which Sam Hecht at center, who I will die on the hill that he has been the best center of the Kleiman era, and it's not remotely close.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. He had a really great season this last year. Hayden Gillum did some things well, but was mostly up and down. And Noah Johnson, I think with like the gift of hindsight, I think he's aged well as a center, but I still think that Hecht is probably a better center than Noah Johnson was. He was second team all Big 12 last year, in his first year as a starter. You don't get that on accident. So really awesome stuff for him. And Poitier probably slots in at right guard. You think it's probably Andrew Langang at left guard, if you had to guess. Throwing those then throwing the 2 tackles, you're getting a lot bigger on the offensive line. Assuming it's going to be Snee and Fitzpatrick at the tackles. So that's going to be a lot larger offensive line. And then I just remembered this. Amos Tamalele coming in listed at 375 pounds as an offensive guard. That is absurd to me.
That's a big boy.
I've seen a few people say that it's not bad weight. I genuinely do not believe that.
There's almost no way, because if that's not bad weight, that's power lifter.
Yeah, like there has to be some bad weight in there. I mean, like, I don't know, 375 just absolutely bonkers though for an offensive lineman. Ace and I were theorizing, or I should say, we were kind of dreaming about a Maryland I formation with Uso and Amos Talalele as the fullbacks there. And I guess we could throw in Gabe Irvin as the tailback for a little extra power. I think we could do some fun things with maybe some swing. With Amos Talalele as maybe a swing guy this upcoming season.
Yeah, which is just a big boy.
Yeah.
But the final rankings for the K-State high school recruits have come in. Not a lot of major jumps, except for one, which was a very major jump. But Lincoln Cure still kept his 5-star on 24/7, bordering on a 5-star on On3. And then Noah King gets his 4th star on 3 back. So did Brock Heath. He got his 4th star back. But the big climber is Larry Porter IV, who was one of the last commits of this cycle. And I think as soon as he committed to K-State, people actually watched his film because they're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, word.
Yeah. Porter was, I think, ungraded for pretty much the entire cycle because he was just really a late bloomer is what it sounds like. Didn't really pick up any power conference offers until his senior season. I think he did the camp circuit. And I think he kind of got the treatment of, hey, you're really good, but like we want to see you do it on the field, like in real first. And then he did it. I think he might have led the state of Missouri in receiving
Yeah.
'Cause he was a 1,000-yard receiver and had, I think, almost 100 receptions. Like he put up crazy numbers, and he gets rewarded just about making the top 200, 204th nationally rated recruit, and finds himself as a 4-star. So Larry Porter getting some respect, and he's somebody that when it comes time for our recruiting grades, I think he's going to be pretty high on both of our boards, because he'll certainly be pretty high on mine.
Yeah. But Connor, I have a feeling that who I'm going to about to say got snubbed from their 4th star.
I think I know exactly who you're going to talk about, but I'll let you do that.
JoJo Scott deserved that 4th star. I've been pounding this because he was one of the first commits of this cycle. And I was pounding the table for him to get that 4th star as soon as he committed, because his tape was so good. If you just turn on the tape, you have a pretty convincing argument to say that JoJo Scott is sort of on that same tier as Larry Porter and Lincoln Cure for how good his tape was. And just for some reason, he just doesn't get his 4th star, which just is absolutely baffling to me. It could be like Joe Jackson, where Joe Jackson had wait a minute, this is ridiculous film, and he's coming out of a highly rated place in Florida, but he just never got that 4th star.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on JoJo Scott for what it's worth. I mean, I think that you ring the bell louder than I do. And it's not because I'm not a JoJo Scott fan. It's because you might be the biggest JoJo Scott fan. But I think it's warranted because JoJo Scott, for no reason other than negligence on the part of the recruiting services, I think that he could end up being the hidden gem of the class, even though he's not hidden. If you watch his film, it's on the internet, it's available for free. You can go to your local library and watch it if you don't have internet access. And so it's not hidden in the traditional sense. He's just an incredible player. And for some reason that just did not translate to recruiting rankings, which as much as we love to cover recruiting on this show and talk about recruiting rankings, it's just as important to remember the guys that fall through the cracks and don't get the recognition that they deserve. And JoJo Scott's probably the top of that list for this K-State class.
Yeah, I don't think that anyone. The only other person that I think has an argument for being on that same tier of potential hidden gem is Darian Whitaker. Because that's another one where you watch his film and you're like, okay, how is he not at least a high 3-star?
Yeah, which for what it's worth, on 3 gave him an 89 grade, which is the highest 3-star grade that you can get. So at least on 3, caught on with Darian Whitaker. But on 3 only gave JoJo Scott an 86 grade, so kind of a mid-tier 3-star, which I just don't think is justifiable. I don't get it.
I don't either. But I will say that this class is probably the most excited that I've been to do the class rankings episode we always do for our anniversary. We'll probably have Drew Galloway on for that again. We really liked the draft format last year. But and that's not because it's the best class, but because I think it's from top to bottom. I think I've said this before on an episode. There's always been 2 or 3 guys per class that I just kind of didn't see it with. This year, there's only one. I'm not going to say who it is. Just know he's there. But I really think that this is top to bottom on paper, one of the best classes that Kleiman has been able to put together. Again, I say on paper.
Yeah. And this is also, I think, the highest rated class that Kleiman has had by the end of the recruiting period, because this is, I think, 39th
It is.
on 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, that's like across the board, that's a fine recruiting class ranking. But for K-State, that's a pretty fantastic recruiting job there. Because not only, because we've always kind of been in the like 50s and 60s for the most part for recruiting class rankings, going back to Bill Snyder and even through some of the Kleiman era. But the last couple of years, we've been fishing in bigger ponds and been coming away with more gems. This year, I'm going for taking some big swings really paid off this year for the football staff.
Yeah, 100%. The big swings are paying off. So I'm really excited for that episode that we're going to do, 5 months from now.
Yeah.
But now we can go ahead and talk about the women's Catsketball team. Again, we're going to briefly cover the Arizona games. K-State won both of them in Bramlage, beat Arizona 62-47, and then beat Arizona State 81-69. The story of the Arizona State game, Arizona was just kind of I don't want to call it a coast game because it took a fourth quarter shellacking for us to sort of separate. But the real story of the Arizona State game was Ayoka Lee broke her foot and is probably going to be out until at least the postseason, which please just give this woman a break.
Yeah, that was a just another brutal break for this women's basketball team. It's around the same time that it was last year as well, because I remember the Arizona game. She didn't play a lot. I think she missed like the entire second quarter, but went back in, and then Arizona State, she left and left the floor and never came back. So that was a pretty bad sign there. But that's just a really, really tough break for this team that's still wildly talented. But I mean, like you take away a player of Ayoka Lee's caliber from any roster, and there's going to be issues no matter what.
Yeah, and we sort of saw those issues. Like I said, we were going to gloss over both the Arizona games, but you definitely saw those issues when the first full game without Yoki, and that was up against Colorado in Boulder, in a game that I personally wanted to win because I really wanted revenge for it. It should have been a flagrant. I'm still mad. But K-State ends up losing 63-53 in Boulder, and the difference just ends up being a really, really sloppy second quarter for K-State, where they end up losing that quarter 25-15, and then we're just kind of never able to get their footing back from that. I mean, they made a push, and it wasn't a blowout, but it just, after that second quarter, to me, it just kind of didn't feel like the game was ever in any danger for Colorado, which is so strange. And, some of it is it's your first game without Ayoka Lee this season. And, there's going to be growing pains from that. Plus, it's an away game and weird stuff happens at the away games. But, yeah, it was just kind of a sad game, honestly.
Yeah. This game was a punch in the gut, really, as a K-State fan. Because, not only, does it just hurt to lose a game when in the prior week, TCU dropped a game and really gifted K-State a leg up in the Big 12 race. And we followed up by letting them right back in it. And that really hurts. On top, and then of course, really wanting to get revenge for last year. And Colorado's not a bad team, but I think K-State's a better team than Colorado. This is not a game we had any business losing, and we just did not play well. We just really played poorly in this one. This one hurt.
Yeah, but I can cover the starter stats. Serena Sundell played 38 minutes, 6 of 16 from the field, so not her most efficient day. 1 of 3 from 3, 4 rebounds, 3 of them being offensive, 2 fouls, 3 assists, 4 turnovers, 2 blocks, a steal, and 13 points. So a free throw away from stuffing the stat sheet, which K-State only had 2 free throws this entire game. And the weird thing is, I don't think it was a particularly poorly officiated game. It was just a normal women's basketball poorly officiated game, because this is a conversation I've had with Drew Galloway today as of recording. And that is, for as much as people complain about the men's, Big 12 refs, they're straight up in the women's game. They're just straight up man-made horrors beyond comprehension.
Yeah. I can't remember what quarter it was, but it was later in the game. And this one, like, it was just horrific. The call where I can't exactly remember the circumstances at this point, but can you remember like more clearly than I can? Where, because you remember what I'm talking about. It was the where they gave Colorado the ball, even though like replay like showed that like it like was not Colorado's ball.
Yeah,
and they just like didn't overturn it because they screwed up the call in the court.
Yeah, they just refused to overturn it. I know what you're talking about. It was a ball out of bounds. Yeah, God. Yeah, just straight up. We'll talk about it more in the Iowa State game because, good God. But
that one's also fresh on the mind as well. I tried to put this Colorado game out of my mind. So
yeah, but keep going with the starters. Tamira Poindexter played 28 minutes, 3 of 6 from 3 and the field. All of her shots were threes. 3 rebounds, 1 foul, 1 assist, 1 turnover, a steal for 9 points. Zy Walker, 28 minutes, 3 of 13 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3, 2 rebounds, 1 foul, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, a block, 2 steals, and 7 points. Again, free throws away from stuffing the stat sheet. Jalen Glenn, 28 minutes, 2 of 5 from 3. All of her field goal attempts were threes. 4 rebounds, 3 fouls, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 1 steal, 6 points. And then Eliza Maupin only played 6 minutes, which, yes, drove me insane. Didn't have a field goal attempt, 2 rebounds, 1 turnover for no points. And I don't have an explanation as to why Eliza only played 6 minutes, but it happened.
Yeah, I guess the best explanation for Eliza not playing much probably comes in the top bench performer from the game. That's Kennedy Taylor, who had a really good game in her own right. It was 2 rebounds off a double-double, played 25 minutes, 6 of 9 from the field, 12 points, 8 rebounds, and then I had a foul, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, and a steal. Terrence Sides, not a great shooting day. Played 35 minutes, 2 of 8 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3, 1 of 2 at the free throw line. So she finished with 6 points, 2 rebounds, 3 fouls, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, and a steal. And then the last 2 players didn't do a ton. Giselle Sanchez played 8 minutes, 0 of 1 from the field. So did not score in this one, had a foul and an assist. And then Amani Lester played 4 minutes, had a rebound and a turnover, and missed 1 shot. So really the story is Kennedy Taylor off the bench. Taryn played a lot, just didn't do a lot. But Kennedy had herself a pretty solid game.
Yeah. And, Kennedy having a good game, it's just sort of everyone else didn't outside of Serena, who, if you wasn't terribly efficient, but still had a solid enough game. I'm sort of willing to chalk this one up as sort of whiplash, despite the fact that they had a week to sort of prepare for it. And a big reason for that is the big win up against Iowa State in Bramlage, 87-79. This was broadcast on Big Boy ESPN, and objectively very, very good game. Like, this is the type of game that you want to have on national TV to grow your brand. But good Lord, I wish it was significantly less stressful than it was. And we're going to have this conversation now because I want to have this conversation now. We complained about man-made horrors beyond comprehension whenever referees are involved. It gets worse when there's a star player because I don't care what sport it is. You're always going to have the star player tax where, star players are going to get the benefit of the doubt no matter what happens. You get the same with pitchers who are known for their control in baseball, or really star quarterbacks who are able to sell contact, like your Josh Allens, like your Patrick Mahomes. In basketball, it's bad, and in women's basketball, it is atrocious. the star tax that K-State paid for Audie Crooks in this game, which she's already good enough. She doesn't need the damn help, is crazy. Like, the one that comes to mind, and Connor, I know there's one that comes to your mind as well. I'm thinking of the one with Taryn, where Taryn just happened to exist incorrectly around Audie Crooks, did absolutely nothing, and got called for a foul in the fourth. Like, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty horrible. There were a few really bad ones in this game. That one's near the top, I think. One of the worst was Audie Crooks coming down the court and just like blatantly assaulting Kennedy Taylor. And then Audie Crooks tripping over Kennedy Taylor after she just shoulder checked her. And then Kennedy Taylor gets called for the foul. And there's a ref standing right there the entire time, watches the whole thing happen. And just Kennedy Taylor gets the foul call for Audie Crooks being out of control. And it was completely baseless. And that I'm generally not a particularly vocal person at games, but that got me going. Like I was really upset about that. I thought that was just horrific. And again, like Ace said, and like we've been saying, Crooks is already a really good basketball player. You don't need to like cheapen her success by giving her like cheap BS foul calls. Like, she doesn't need that. Like, she already plays through contact really well. Like, you don't have to baby her. Like she's a great player that does not need the extra help.
No. And I think the craziest part, I just thought of another one. It also involved Taryn, where Taryn, God love her, tries to go up for a rebound in overtime. Audie Crooks basically just pulls out the blicky and shoots her in the middle of the court. And there is just nothing gets called. Please, God, just give Taryn her fouls, please.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. There was also at one point, I don't know if this is a misinterpretation of the rule or not. This one like raised my eyebrows, but I don't actually know the answer on it. So like, I'm not going to say that I'm upset because that isn't fair because I just don't actually know. But there was an inbounds play for Iowa State. Where I think they were on their own side of the floor, and they were inbounding from like under the basket, and the play they ran didn't work, so they just had to kind of throw it up top to one of their guards, and as the ball was coming down, it like hit her hand, like visibly like hit her fingertips. And then went past half court, and then she grabbed it again after she had gone back past half court, but it touched the ball on their own side of the court. So I have no idea why that wasn't called a backcourt like violation, because they got one later in the game in a somewhat similar circumstance. But they did not get that one, which I thought was way clearer, honestly, than the other one, because she went like fully over and back. The one thing that's giving me pause, though, that's keeping me from like really getting upset about it, is she never really fully had possession of the ball in her own half of the court. But I was always kind of under the assumption that if you touch the ball it was already on their side of the floor, and she touched the ball on her own side, and then the ball went over and back, and she went and followed it. So again, I just thought that was weird. It was especially annoying because I had like an exactly perfect like angle of her like touching.
You had the angle.
I was like on the yard line, like where this happened. I saw it, like, and I was like, so that just threw me for a loop. After me out of the game for a second, but no, this is a just horribly officiated game for the most part, really. And honestly, women's basketball officiating is really, really hit and miss for the most part, but this game was just awful.
And we won.
Yeah, we won the game. Granted, we made it way more difficult than we needed to. But we're doing all this complaining right now. We still won.
Yeah, we won by 8. It went to overtime. It shouldn't have. But
Yeah.
The thing is, it shouldn't have gone to overtime, but it's not because of the referees.
Yeah. It's just a weird game. And like you said, objectively a really good game. Like neutral observer, like if they're tuned in, they probably love this game. It will probably go down as kind of a classic for K-State. It was one of our better wins on the year, but yeah, it really shouldn't have gotten to the point that it did.
No, but you have the starters.
Yeah, so we'll start here with Ziana Walker. She had an all right game. I thought I had a couple of had a good steal at one point, I think towards the end of the first half. But really, I thought this was not one of her best games otherwise. Had 11 points, 3 of 11 from the field, 5 of 7 on the free throw line, but 0 of 4 on her 3-point field goals. All of those were like pretty open threes. 7 rebounds, an assist, 2 fouls, 3 turnovers, a block, a steal, but notably a plus minus of minus 29, which was the worst on the team, and it's not even close to the next worst plus minus, which is Gisela and Amani, both with -2. So Zai with a really poor plus minus there. Plus minus isn't the greatest stat in the world. It just really jumped off the page here. So I thought it was noteworthy. But Tamira Poindexter, she had 10 points, 4 of 12 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3, added a rebound, a couple assists, 2 fouls, and 4 steals. So a decent game for her. She missed a couple of layups that she probably should have made, where I think she overcomplicated things. One of them, she had a easy layup, but she tried to switch to her right hand last second and kind of got rim stuffed. Then she had a breakaway layup where I think she was doing a little bit too much to get an open layup, and I think just overthought it a bit. But otherwise, she's been pretty decent at driving and whatnot, and she's been shooting from 3 super well as of late. But still not her greatest game. Jalen Glenn had 10 points, 4 of 9 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. Hit a big 3 to open overtime, and also had a floater in overtime that she hit. And then she added 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 fouls, a turnover, and a couple of steals. So a pretty decent game for Jalen. She did miss an open 3 towards the end of regulation, but she made up for it. The very beginning of overtime, hit pretty much an identical shot, just in the opposite corner. But she's been having a good season otherwise. But Serena Sundell was the woman of the hour, really, in this game. She finished with 23 points, 10 of 19 from the field, 1 of 1 from 3, 2 of 3 on her free throws, and had 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 7 turnovers, 2 fouls, a block, and 3 steals. Played 42 minutes on this one. So incredible stuff from Serena Sundell. And after she had a few opportunities to kind of seal the game for us in regulation, but wasn't able to, she locked in overtime and was able to get K-State the victory. And rounding out the starting lineups, Kennedy Taylor, 2 points, 1 of 2 from the field, but did have 5 rebounds, 3 fouls, and a turnover, 2 offensive rebounds as well, which we were rotating our bigs quite a bit, just with having to guard Audie Crooks, just rotating as much as possible. So it's what teams do with Aoka Lee. A lot of times they don't have an elite post player, so it's a solid strategy.
Yeah, and I was impressed with how Kennedy Taylor played, though. It's difficult to say that although Serena Sundell had this first person outscored, it's difficult to say that Taryn Sides didn't have the most impressive day of anyone on the court. She played 34 minutes, 17 points, 6 of 9 from the field, perfect 4 of 4 from 3. And none of them there were like 2 of those were pretty contested threes as well. And one of her field goals was a prayer shot in overtime where she released the ball behind the basket, like in that line, and just decided that the ball was going to go in. But also went 1 of 2 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals. She did get 4 fouls. 2 of those were her existing incorrectly, I suppose, because I don't understand how this just keeps happening to her, because she'll get called 4 fouls, but she won't get the foul calls. And literally the only explanation I can come up with is she's short, so she doesn't get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, one of the ones you're talking about where she was just standing in front of Audie Crooks and got called for a foul was like just laugh out loud terrible. One of the worst calls I've seen in a game. It wasn't the worst call in this game though. I think the Kennedy Taylor one was worse. I think the Taryn one's horrible, but the Kennedy one was just like aggressively bad, I thought. But I'm sorry, I'm butting in on your.
Oh, you're fine.
Taryn, yeah, incredible game for her.
Yep. Then Eliza Maupin played 12 minutes, 6 points, 3 of 3 from the field, 1 rebound, 1 assist, and 1 steal. So solid day for Eliza Maupin. Gisela Sanchez had 2 points in 9 minutes, 1 of 4 from the field, which was a mid-range, 0 of 2 from 3-point land, which of course she needs to just take the step back because, good Lord, she keeps back ironing.
It's remarkable how consistent she is at always hitting the back iron on her 3-point attempts.
Yeah, back iron Sanchez strikes again. It's crazy. But she did get a rebound and a foul and a steal, and actually played respectable defense up against Audie Crooks, which was considerably better than I thought she would do, because I saw Gisela Sanchez on Audie Crooks and was drafting a will for Gisela. I really expected hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby to happen. So it didn't. So good for Gisela. And then Amani Lester played 20 minutes, 6 points, 3 of 5 from the field, missed her 1 free throw, but did have 5 boards, 3 assists, 2 fouls, a turnover, and 2 steals, and just decided that she was going to hit 2 like random mid-range jumpers, and just she turned into like a great post player for a game time of like 6 minutes. And it was like, yeah, I sure feel justified for not knowing anything about basketball, but saying Amani can be really good.
Yeah, that stretch of play that she had in the fourth quarter, I think, was probably the best basketball that she's played at K-State. Hitting a couple mid-range jumpers, and then that contested and one was absolutely massive. But then she had a couple of really big offensive boards as well. This was a game where Casey didn't have a lot of opportunities for offensive boards because Iowa State's a very good rebounding team, and we're Ayoka Lelis. So Imani Lester picking up a couple of big boards. That's huge. And she also had a couple of steals on Audie Crooks as well, where she was able to poke away an entry pass. So really excellent stuff in this game from Imani Lester, and kind of showing the potential. But I also want to highlight really quick, K-State as a team had 18 steals in this game, which is absolutely nuts. I genuinely do not remember the last time I've seen that many. But Casey had 20 points off of turnovers. They forced 23 turnovers for Iowa State. They ran a lot of press and high pressure defense in this game, and it worked out really, really well. We were basically banking on us being able to get more breakaway layups than Iowa State would be able to get wide open threes that go down, and our bet hit on that.
Yeah. which seeing K-State bust out the press was an interesting change of pace.
Yeah. And another thing I want to mention, K-State in overtime in this game, perfect from the field. 6 of 6 from the field, 2 of 2 from 3, putting up 16 points. So when the going got rough, I was very, very nervous going in overtime because Iowa State had all the momentum and K-State just flipped that on its head. And I just locked in. They locked in and they were great.
Yeah. It's a really gritty win for them. And, that's a stereotypical thing to say, but it truly fits here.
Yeah.
But the next 2 games for K-State are massive. One, because it's a rivalry game up against KU in Lawrence. And then the biggest game of the year, which honestly could end up deciding the Big 12 race in, beginning of February, is up against TCU, and K-State does get the advantage of Bramlage Coliseum there. So we've been stomping our feet saying go to the women's games for, years at this point. Go and be loud at this one.
I get that it's a weeknight, so that makes it rough, particularly for the Kansas City people, because, that's a 2-hour drive you have to make, and you probably aren't getting home till 11. So I get it. But if you're gonna pick one game to really inconvenience yourself the next day, and be man, I'm really tired. Why did I do that? Make it this one. This is gonna be like I said, this may decide the Big 12 race, because TCU is a really good basketball team. I'm a little worried about how we're going to do against Sedona Prince, because she's a really good basketball player. Haley Van Lith is really good too. But yeah, we're going to need every last bit of advantage that we can get for this TCU game.
Yeah. But now we can talk about the triumphant return of the men's basketball team to the show. And I want to point out that the caveat we made was not we will start talking about them when they start winning again. It's we will start talking about them when they decide to care again. And lo and behold, those two things just so happen to coincide, which crazy, who could have guessed? But the first game that we're going to talk about is the West Virginia game, where K-State ends up winning 73-60. It is a relatively hot West Virginia team coming in to Bramlage this game. And this was a game that K-State controlled for, but all of it. Yeah. 42-18 first half.
Yeah. K-State was in the driver's seat pretty much this entire game, all because they came out of the gates firing on all cylinders. And this one, very refreshing to see K-State really just kind of dominate an opponent. The final score, it was a 13-point margin, so still, I would say, bordering on a blowout victory for K-State, kind of in that gray area. But the first half was a lot of fun basketball for K-State, which is not something that we've been able to say very often this year. But the last 4 games, things that, even with the 2 losses, one being to KU, one being to Baylor, things were starting to come together on the floor, but they just weren't turning into wins. But this game, everything finally kind of flew together all at once, and everything just nice to watch for the first time in a while.
Yeah, I didn't have so much fun since the first half of the Drake game. In fact, everything after that up to this West Virginia game was pretty much abject misery. But in terms of starters, Doug McDaniel played 32 minutes, 5 of 13 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, 4 of 4 in his free throws, 2 rebounds, 2 fouls, 6 assists, 3 turnovers, 2 steals, 15 points. The two players that I really want to highlight here, well, 3. because David Gasson will always deserve his flowers on this show. He will always get his flowers. We love Dave. But Doug McDaniel has, especially recently, sort of got that buy-in that we were really, really waiting for from the beginning of the season. And it's showing because coincidentally, definitely not related at all, he started playing a lot better. And it just played a lot better with team basketball. But that also always extended to Dave, because if you could always say one thing about Dave, even from his first year here, is damn it, he always tried. And we love Dave here. 29 minutes, 5 of 8 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3. His three-pointers will always make me laugh. But a perfect 4 of 4 from the free throw line, which, great job, Dave. 2 rebounds, 3 fouls, 4 blocks for 14 points. Max Jones, 28 minutes, 5 of 7 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3. 7 rebounds, 3 fouls, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, a steal for 12 points. Coleman Hawkins, who is the third player I wanted to highlight, just because he really has been the glue guy that we kind of expected and wanted him to be, as well as a star player, which is rare to be a glue guy and a star player at once. In fact, Coleman might be like the only guy that I could think of that is that. But 29 minutes, 3 of 11 from the field, 0 of 1 from 3, 5 of 10 on his free throws, 7 rebounds, 3 fouls, 4 assists, 2 turnovers, a block, and a steal, 11 points. I'll give him the stuffed stat sheet for trying a three-pointer. They deserve as a treat. And then Brendan Howson, 29 minutes, 2 of 8 from the field, 2 of 7 from 3, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 6 total points. So all in all, all but one of your starting 5 were in double digits. We take those.
Yeah, this is a pretty solid game, all things considered, for the starting 5. Hassan, you'd love to see him be a little bit more efficient, but that's just kind of the life of a three-point shooter. Just some days the numbers aren't going to be as pretty as other days, which next game, luckily, will rectify that problem. But now we can get into the bench players. CJ Jones led the bench players. He had 10 points in 29 minutes, 4 of 6 from the field, 1 of 1 from 3, 1 of 2 the free throw line, and he added 6 rebounds, 2 fouls, and 1 assist and 0 turnovers. So a really solid stat line there for CJ Jones. Then Ugonna Onyenso, who has had one of the stranger seasons for K-State, I think, and that he seems to be pretty decent when he's on the floor, but isn't on the floor a ton. But in this game, he played 10 minutes, 2 of 2 from the field, made his 1 free throw attempt, had 5 points, 4 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a steal. So all things considered, a pretty solid day for Ugo Onyenso. 2 of his rebounds were offensive as well. And then you have 2 more players to round out the substitutes. Neither of them scored. Moby Kekuruka had 3 rebounds and a steal. Then David Castillo, he had a foul, an assist, 2 turnovers, and a steal. So Castillo's been up and down really this year. I think at times he's really struggled, but there's been a few moments where he's kind of started to shine through. And I think he's been a bit better as of late, but still is a really long way to go.
Which that's just kind of freshman moment.
Yeah.
But really, really impressive win for K-State to just finally inject some life into what has been a dormant and just really disappointing season. And I don't think that, barring a random win, basically barring an NC State from last year moment, I think that this season is already kind of destined to be marked as a disappointment. But that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy things as they are, I suppose, sort of take them as they come. And, maybe they do have the random NC State moment. That'd be the most anti-K-State thing in the world. but it'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like, I mean, we really are at a point where I think we have like 11 or 12 games left, and like the point that we're at is we really need to win probably like 10 or 11, because I think we have 11 left. We need to win like we can maybe afford a single loss in there, pending how we did in the Big 12 tournament. So that's just not realistic. So like I just don't think this team is going to make the NCAA tournament, even though the last couple of games I think that they've looked like an NCAA tournament team. It doesn't really matter because the way that they played for the first like 2 months of the season is going to outweigh how they play this last month, which sucks, I guess. But you know they've earned this position that they're in. But it doesn't mean that they should stop trying. It doesn't mean that there can't be some decent things to look forward to and build to next year. And I think the most encouraging game of the entire season, granted against a pretty bad Oklahoma State team, but we're a pretty bad team too. So,
and for the record, you are correct. There are 11 games left in the season. Great. And we pretty much have to win out, and that includes going to Hilton. So yeah, good luck. But
yeah, I don't think we're winning that, but
we don't win those.
A game that we did win was this most recent game against Oklahoma State, which was a wildly fun and entertaining game for the men's basketball team. This is the best that they have looked all year against anybody, and that includes some games against some of the worst teams in the entire country. So it says a lot about how far they've come, I guess, and also I think maybe adds to the level of fair criticism you can lob for how bad things were early in the season. But I'll go ahead and get going with the starters here in this Oklahoma State game. Brendan Hassen led the way in scoring. He was on fire in this game. Played 26 minutes, 5 of 6 from the field, a perfect 5 of 5 from 3, which I believe, according to K-State SID, he's the first player to, I think it's 5 attempts or more and make all of them from 3 since Denny Clemente in, I believe, 2009, which Denny Clemente is one of my favorite players growing up. So it's always nice to see his name come up. But Hassen, 3 of 4 from the line, so better from 3 than from the free throw line, which is, I think, that's Brendan Hassen. So he finishes with 18 points, 1 rebound, 1 turnover, and a steal. So he was in there to shoot, and that's what he did, and he was really good at it. Coleman Hawkins played 33 minutes. He had himself a pretty good game as well. 6 of 10 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, and his 1 3-point make was on the Sports Center top 10 because he got a pass as the shot clock was winding down. He hit a crazy like midair 180 like fadeaway 3-point shot.
And the intervention YY high rise.
Yeah, he had a trick shot in an actual live game, and he had something to say to the Oklahoma State bench afterwards as well. But 2 of 3 from the line as well for Hawkins. So he finishes with 15 points. He was 1 rebound off of a double-double. It kind of feels like how he's been the whole year, where he's like perpetually almost getting a double-double or a triple-double, which has got to be a little bit frustrating for him. I imagine maybe being like 8 and 11 is more frustrating, but like secondary complaints has to be that. But 3 offensive rebounds for him as well. Did get 4 fouls, had 6 assists to 1 turnover, then had 3 blocks and 3 steals. So he stuffs the stat sheet in this game, and that's why you go and get a guy like Coleman Hawkins. He does everything, and that was perfectly exemplified in this game. And I mean, the stat sheet shows it. It doesn't always show how much that he does, but I mean, Coleman Hawkins is as complete a basketball player as you're going to get in terms of how versatile his skill set is. But also in the starting lineup was Max Jones, 26 minutes in this one, 5 of 8 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3, and 1 of 1 at the free throw line. So 14 points for Max, a rebound, a foul, 4 turnovers, and a steal. The assist to turnover ratio is not great, but I mean, Max is there to be a 3-point shooter and play really good defense. And he's been doing a lot better getting in the bucket as well as of late. So Max Jones has a lot of natural scoring ability. We just haven't asked him to be our main scorer, and he's done a really, really excellent job, I think, kind of settling into a lesser role than he's used to. So a big shout out to him for that. Doug McDaniel, 31 minutes, 4-12 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3, 10 points for Doug, then a rebound, a foul, 6 assists to 1 turnover, 3 steals. But something that will not show up on the stat sheet is the high energy, high effort defense that he's been playing the last couple of games, where to the point where he's been borderline the best defender on the floor these last couple of games, which is just night and day. And it's getting to a point with Doug where I was pretty much completely convinced that he was not going to be back next year just based on his body language. And I have the exact same amount of inside information now that I did when I made that first assumption, which is none. And I'm now at a point where Doug seems pretty bought in, and I'm now entertaining the possibility that he may be back, which if this is the Doug that we're going to get, I absolutely want him back, because this version of Doug is fun. I really like this version of Doug. So I hope that he continues this level of play. But rounding out the starting lineup is David Gasson, who, oddly enough, in a dominant win for K-State, the guy that's normally been carrying the offense for K-State, he had the lowest output of the day among the starters. 19 minutes for Dave, 2 of 4 from the field, 1 of 4 at the free throw line. So just 5 points for him, 3 rebounds, 3 fouls, and a steal. So really, really pedestrian day for David Gasson, honestly.
Yeah, but whenever all the rest of the starting 5 is putting up double digits, you still win. But the bench had contributors as well. Moby Kageruka had 12 minutes, 3 of 4 from the field, 2 of 2 on his free throws, 3 rebounds, 2 fouls, 2 turnovers, a block, and 3 steals for 8 points. CJ Jones, 20 minutes, 2 of 7 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3, but 2 of 2 from his free throws, 4 rebounds, 1 foul, 4 assists, a turnover, and 2 steals for 6 points. David Castillo, 12 minutes, 1 of 3 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3, 2 of 2 on his free throws, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, a steal for 5 points. Agena and Yenso, 16 minutes, 2 of 2 from the field, 4 rebounds, 3 fouls, 1 turnover, a vicious block for 4 total points. And then Taj Manning and Spencer Bain were also in this episode.
Good for you, Taj. Good for you, Spencer.
Good for you, Taj and Spencer. I feel like we should just move on from that. But these have been really, really encouraging games. It really is a shame that the next one is going to Hilton, because Iowa State's a really good basketball team, and I'm kind of pissed about it.
Yeah, Iowa State is a remarkably good basketball team. The way that they play, the way they carry themselves on the court, they have Final Four written all over them, and it really annoys me, and I don't like it. But and on top of them already being a really good basketball team, we're going to Hilton, which has never been an easy place to win, and it's also Iowa State coming off of just an absolute heartbreaking loss at Arizona, where Arizona, they hit at the 55-foot half-court shot to send it to overtime, and then Caleb Love just went absolutely insane in overtime. They won by 10. So
we're gonna die.
Yeah. We're gonna get a highly motivated Iowa State in this game. That's the last thing we need because unmotivated Iowa State probably still beats us. Highly motivated Iowa State could be like Houston game 2.0, which I really don't want. I don't like the idea of that at all. So
No. Yeah, but anyway, do you have any final notes before we sign off?
Shout out Moby. He had a great game against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, shout out Moby Akagaruka because we didn't think we'd see him this year. We've seen him this year
quite a bit, actually.
But thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us pretty much anywhere at Aggieville Alleycats. And if you want to email us, we're AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at ACEdward00.
I am at Connor Bouncler, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store, link found in our podcast and Twitter bio. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.